Okay, today I'm going to be playing Purgatory Forest again. It's going to be slightly shifted around. This deck features a card, most notably it's called after the card that wins the game for it, Path to Purgatory. End of your turn, does a giant wipe, and you need 30 shadows to activate it. To get 30 shadows into your deck, you use your cards, you get them killed off and or discard them, and then you blow the opponent up with that. And if that fails, you have an alternative win condition with Rhinoceros, because of course Rhinoceros still is not limited at all. What were they thinking? So we'll go over this card by card. This is a very cheap deck. If I show it to you here, it will be very, very clear how cheap this deck is, at least relative to some other unlimited decks and most standard decks. This deck doesn't require any legendaries. Ancient Elf is nice, Cassiopeia is nice, but neither of those are mandatory. If you don't want to run Cassiopeia, Will of the Forest does fine. In some situations, Will of the Forest is even better, mostly just because it costs one less. It is surprising how powerful a card is when you just cost one less, even if it doesn't come with a body. So yeah, Will, you can also use Cassios if you don't want to use Wills. And you can also run Ancient Elf, but there's no proper replacements for it. Most likely if you're just like missing some things. The linchpin of the deck, of course, is Fairy Beast. Without this card, you will die horribly. Horribly die. You will horribly die without this card. Fairy Beast is not a very common card because most of the time Forestcraft does not plan on needing to heal. This is a slower combo Forestcraft deck though, so it does need something like Fairy Beast to stabilize against aggressive decks. It's unlike the Roach OTK deck, which relies on fetching roaches with Fina and then playing out a huge combo with 0 mana pieces and killing the opponent in one turn. This deck cannot kill people in one turn, so if the Path to Purgatory get nuked, it is on the roaches to carry you. And you're going to have to recognize which decks are capable of dealing with this card and which decks are not. For the most part, most decks cannot deal with more than one Path to Purgatory at a time. They may have like one spell that can target amulets and remove them. So if that's the case, then you have it in the bag. But if that's not the case, then it can get pretty tricky if they nuke your paths before you're able to properly utilize them. In addition, this deck has problems with aggressive decks that use like the Darkwing Bat. Anything that can reach you for more than Fairy Beast can heal is going to get nasty. If you're looking for tech, from what I've experimented with, you can replace the Flower Fairies with Bellringer Angels. That will help against some combo decks, as you can just place the Bellringers down as roadblocks in order to stop the opponent from steamrolling you and give you that extra time you might need. Alternatively, you might want to try Ancient Elf once again, replacing the Flower Fairies with Ancient Elves. Same reason, the ward can potentially ward off a combo for a turn or so. The first game I'm going to be showing off is against a Burn Runecraft deck, and is to demonstrate the deck's ability to bully decks that can't do a lot of damage at once. The Rune deck is most notoriously able to just chip you down to death over time with Chain Lightnings and crap, and this will show you how that can be ineffective. So, most notably, we started with a good opening hand. I'm playing as though the opponent is not aggressive Rune until I see this card, and then I know that it is an aggressive Rune deck. So I keep that in mind, and we're going to be playing more as though it's aggressive and less like it's a spell boost, because it's not the spell boost deck. He plays that in curve. It was more correct for him to trade than to hit me in the face, but he's trying to burn me down. He knows that I'm probably a combo deck, given I just played Fairy Whisperer, so he's thinking face is the place, which is correct. Face is the place you wants to go. He's playing stuff on curve, getting sigils down so that he can use them later. Very effective strategy. This turn I don't have many good cards in my hand, so I'm just going to use a fairy to milk the 4-3. Because I don't... One aspect of this deck that needs to be kind of weighed... We'll let this finish. one aspect of this deck that needs to be weighed is if you have all 3 copies of a card in your hand, and you have Fate in your hand, you need to make sure that you have to evaluate whether you need these cards later. And very often, like, I know I'm against an aggressive deck, so I'm like, maybe I need 1 or 2 of these later. That's why I didn't use Fate the turn I drew it. It might have been wise for me to Fate the turn I drew it, but I ended up not doing it because I wanted to get value out of this card. There is a skill in learning when you should let go of cards in your hand. Like, even if it's the last Fairy Beast and you're not sure if you can ever heal again, you need to be able to weigh when to use Altered Fate. It's one of the skills in the deck that needs to be mastered. In this case, I think it was wise to wait. We're able to nuke off the 2-3 and get rid of an Earth Sigil. The opponent's going to burn us for 7. It's a little inconvenient, but we do curve directly into Fairy Beast, which we have happily top-decked. So we get to swing back to near full health and reduce his threat and remove an Earth Sigil. Since Earth Sigils are so useful in that deck, it's nice to get them burned on the Illusionist. He's continuing to burn us down, but once again, it's only little bit by little bit. That deck is not fast. So we get a clear here. He has no sigils, so he can't burn us down quickly. We're just going to set up for a nice Altered Fate next turn. He lightnings me in the face again. Now I knowingly mill a card because I'm about to Fate anyway. It wouldn't matter what I draw. So I was willing to go to 9 cards in hand. Alright, my turn. I'm going to Fate. We lost a Whisper, big deal. Alright. I know we just acquired that hand, but I played this, and we drew all of this. So, one key thing about circles is their ability to be combined with Roach, because this is a spell and not a follower, so it doesn't take up space on the board. That being said, I will often be using Fairy Circle just to get the Fairy Circles out of the way and get more cards in my hand to fill up the hand size. It's on you whether you want to think about how to use Roaches, but in this case I do not. I am seeing that Path to Purgatory is a free win, and that Rhinoceros will not be necessary. Against different decks, I may have played differently with these circles and not use them right away. I didn't use them this turn, but that's just an example. I will be using these fairy circles later. Again, because this only fetches Forestcraft cards, I know I will not mill a Fate or a Purgatory off of this effect. I can mill a Fate or a Purgatory on my draw step, though. But I did keep that in mind. And then once this fizzles, it will also generate 2 shadows. Alright, at this point I am looking to get Purgatory online without needing another Fate. And he is setting up a pretty aggressive board, so it is scaring me a little bit. We mill a Purgatory, which is sad, but it's fine. Ultimately, it's fine. I'm going to be trying to accumulate as many shadows as possible here. So you will see me waste, in quotation marks, cards here just to get the amount of cards down, and then we'll have 30 shadows starting on my next turn. I don't think there was any way for me to actually get all 30 this turn, otherwise I would have done it. I'm fairly sure there was no way to get 30. But with this, now I have 30, and now he has to kill me. The problem with him trying to kill me, though, is that I'm just going to bully him. We're just going to bully this guy. We have Fairy Beast. His board gets wiped every turn, so he can't stick a follower. So even if he accumulates a lot of burn, he needs to do more than I can heal with Fairy Beast in one turn. So it's not pretty for him. Not pretty at all. Like, that's even a good play, and it's just, like, not enough. Sorry, dude, not enough. We're back on 18. He has 2 Ars Magnums and a Chain Lightning, and he's like, well, I can't win anymore. And that's kind of what I mean. That's kind of what I mean. One of the popular decks in Unlimited right now is this Havencraft deck that gets City of Gold and then plays a lot of amulets to try to burn you down with efficient removal and draw. Like, very efficient removal and draw. They go through their deck faster, sometimes faster than me. And I faced this deck many times, and I think Purgatory just... It's like 70-30 in favor for Purgatory. You will sometimes lose because Beast gets ignored, or they don't have answers for Purgatory. But sometimes they do have a burn solution, and it gets kind of annoying. Most notably, they have an ambush card that gets bigger, and if they manage that card correctly, it can kill you easily. Against enemy Havencraft players that don't know what they're doing, though, the Purgatory deck probably wins 90% of the time, 95% of the time. This deck is very effective against that deck because, once again, Fairy Beast knows how to stall. It was more correct for me to play Roach there, but I did that anyway. Okay, so this is the card that gets you to lose if you can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it right now, but I'm not scared of it just yet. This turn was very difficult for me because I had a lot of decisions that I could make. I could play this, and it would draw me 3 cards over a few turns. That would have been pretty good. I could play the Elfchild May, Fate, and then Fate looking for another Elfchild May, and then do it that way to kill this. But I wasn't that desperate to get rid of it, so I think the line of play I took, which is this into this, was the best one. I took a long time on this turn, longer than I do on most turn 4s. But of course this is a replay, so it's instant speed. He's gonna make his dude pretty big. Thankfully our hand size is just big enough to deal with both of these threats. So even though he got a pretty big... what is this card's name? I forgot. Even though he got a pretty big Holy Mage, we're able to clear the board out this turn to stop him from being too annoying. And this is another reason I like Will of the Forest over Castios. Like, oh, turn 5, he has 2 big threats, let's just kill them both. Usually that isn't possible, but with Will of the Forest it is. Will of the Forest makes things a lot more possible. Once again, I'm evaluating Fairy Circle as a card I don't desperately need. Also, I just try to get as many shadows as possible there, and then zap the hand. We're at 25 shadows on turn 6. We are looking pretty. I feel so sorry for this guy. The thing about Fairy Beast is I'm pretty sure most players don't even remember it exists. So when Fairy Beast comes in and just totally trashes them, I think they get surprised. So, like, look at this. Fairy Beast, heal for 8, just negate the damage he did to me. Evolve, kill his 5/6, return the beast to my hand, and, like, what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? What do you do? It's the beast is back in my hands, so your kill spell misses me. Alright, here's another upcoming turn where I'm going to have a lot of choices to make. So I wanted to review that real quick. When you're looking at your hand, and this is once again connecting to Rhinoceroach and when you want to use it as a win condition. As I've said before, Roach cannot take the opponent down from 20 to 0. There is no combination of cards that will get you to do that. Maybe if you get both flowers to give you a 0 cost, maybe, but even with that, it's very hard to get Roach to do that much. So once again, these Nature's Guidances, while they look great with Roaches, I'm going to be using them with Elfchild May.
my life as a prayer.
He correctly banishes my card, which stops me from having the 30th shadow to activate the thing. I do this to guarantee I have 30 shadows. Then I'm going to play Beast for 8 health and pass the turn for him. I'm back at full health. He's sad. He's very sad. Oh, another thing about these Heretical Inquiries. One of the reasons this deck is so good against that deck is because Fairy Whisperer is like 1/3 of a card. It's not even a card, while the Heretical Inquiries are a card. So he's trading a card for 1/3 of a card. So that's another reason why this deck is very good against that deck. Their removal is centered on single target 1-for-1 removal, and this deck inherently negates that by being very tokeny by nature. Oh, and we drew Path, so that's GG. We're gonna play double Roach and get him down low. The idea is we get him down to 3 health, so that he can't possibly really come back to the... He can't possibly kill me in 1 turn. We're gonna make it impossible for him. We're gonna put him on this clock so he can't possibly kill us. Also, that deck doesn't have amulet removal, so that's also nice. Now, this is one of 2 Bloodcraft decks I'm gonna be showing today. The other Bloodcraft deck is probably among the worst matchups, and it's very common. So this deck is kind of, well, gets countered by the meta, I guess you can say. This Bloodcraft deck is a standard control deck that just wins by outvaluing you and then depleting your resources, blah 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 blah. That's how control decks work. The most popular Bloodcraft archetype, which we will be showing a game of later, burns you out and kills you, and it's no good. It's no fun. So Purgatory excels against decks like this because even if they have Emeralda, for example, to remove my amulets, which I'm assuming this guy does run Emeralda, but I don't know if he actually does. Maybe Emeralda got like worse or something. I don't know. Even if they have amulet removal, it's very easy to just Zerg with roaches after Purgatory has done its job, because the life gain is mostly limited to Dire Bond and Diabolical Drain. So if you just play the amulets, they can't heal, so you win the game that way. That's not how I'm going to win this game, but that's just an example of why I'm favored against this deck. He's playing Blood Moon, so I'm assuming Belphegor, but then he does this, and he evolves it now. I can't say I understand why players will willingly do this, and the big reason this is a mistake is he is down a resource that I haven't spent yet, and this can't possibly benefit him. Except he's going to play Dire Bond, so now we have to ask ourselves, was this combo worth it? And the answer to that is no. I think he should have just played Dire Bond and taken the 6, because what the hell am I going to do? He has failed to recognize the deck I am playing with the cards I have played. Which is probably fair, because up till now I've only been playing Sylvan Justice and Fairy Circle, so he may have not known, but I think if he had known, he would not have made this line. This line is very effective against a different type of forest, but not the one I'm running. Also, Whispering Woods is ridiculous, and so we're just gonna hold that 4/4 still while we draw more cards. This guy has a lot of healing. Alright, so now that she doesn't have her effect, we're just going to nuke her off the board without using an evolve point, and play the fairy because we're effectively drawing 2 cards a turn. He does this again, and now I'm even more baffled. I have no idea why he thought this was a good idea. This time he's not even using Dire Bond with it, so it's like, what? You use that against a 1/1? Huh? Huh? What? So I'm gonna recycle my Whispering Woods again, just cause, like, that thing is too hard to kill to deal with otherwise. And just keeping a 4/4 frozen is good, but, like, it's one of the reasons this card is very good. Alright. person's kind of bullshit. So I learned what his deck is now, so it's just like... Destroy all allied followers and amulets. For each card, put a random follower that costs more than it from your deck into play. He has nothing but 2 cost followers, so when he plays that card, he's going to get his 10 cost monstrosities with Storm. And I guess that's how he thought he was going to win, but I have the ability to actually clear his board on the next turn, which I will go over now. Regardless of where the randomness lands, I am able to clear with Will of the Forest and Airbound Barrage. We cast Will of the Forest. If it hits this 5 times and it hits this 3 times, it's very easy. We barrage this and we roach that. The roach will do 5, the Will does 8, and the barrage does 3. So that's one way to clear the board. If it hits this 8 times, we used Airbound Barrage. No. Yeah, we use Airbound Barrage on the Whispering Woods, hit this, send the fairy in here, then send the roach here. If it hits this 6 times and this twice, we use Airbound Barrage on the fairy and the roach, and that kills it. And you see what I mean. Every permutation of random damage that gets assigned, doesn't matter where it's assigned, I'm able to clear this turn. It just changes what I use my Airbound Barrage on, because I might not necessarily want to bounce this back. I hope that made sense. I had a guaranteed clear here, is what I'm trying to tell you.
You're done for.
The gods have been outrun. Awaken.
Gaze into the crystal.
He's going to flood the board with a bunch of little stuff. I think it's fair that I could have... There's a lot of lines of play here, actually. The best line is to play Fairy Beast and heal for 8. I'm so low on health that if he does his person thing again, I die, and I don't want to die, so we're going to Fairy Beast this. Now, I decided not to evolve this turn, and that might have been my bad. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. It ended up working out for me in the end, but I think in hindsight I should have evolved on this turn to kill the other 2-1.
Come on, let's play.
I beg you.
Hey, let's play. Don't hurt me.
I am the Father, the God of all.
Ow!
Okay, so he sends 7 to my face. Now, this is another reason why Fairy Beast is kind of ridiculous. So it's only going to heal us for 6 this time, but, like, it's a big body, and we have a lot of Evo points left, so it's like, trade 6-6 here, trade 4-4 here, trade that there. What I could have done is I could have traded the Water Fairy first, and gotten a Fairy, so said that we got an extra point of health, but I didn't think that was important, so I decided to just keep the Fairy alive, and it's fine. Or rather, just bump the Fairy later against that instead of against the Zeus.
It won't be long now.
But I could have did it either way. Let me get that out of the way.
The gods have been
May the
outrun.
forest be at peace.
It's also moreover a general weakness of Zeus is that he is a Stormfaller with a lot of things, but he doesn't do a lot of damage. He plays Zeus again. It's getting a little old hat now. So, at this point I'm realizing his burn options are limited to Razor Claw and his 10 mana Storm, so he can't play both in the same turn. I literally can't die as long as I have more than 6 health. So, R9 if he has all 3 Razor Claws. If he even runs Razor Claw. Right, I don't even know if he runs Razor Claw. So, I know that I am fully safe and that we have 2 turn lethal with Purgatory, so that ends out the game. At this point, I have won.
I'm gonna rest. Come on, let's play.
The gods have been outrun.
He commits honorable suicide. So the game I'm showing you has an earlier iteration of the deck, but it does show you why this deck does not like the Dark Feast Bat blood deck. Mostly because it's fast, it burns, and it's and the type of burn it does allows them to always set up a win condition. Like if they have to, they will ping themselves 20 times just to kill you. So far so good. Alright, so here's why the matchup is terrible. Like, we didn't draw Elfchild May early. He's like blood fed feeds the Dark Feast Bat 4 times. I have Roach, but I can't necessarily use it, so it's kind of bad. He's pinging himself again. He's pinged himself a 3rd time, and this flower bed's doing damage to me. He hasn't given me a Sylvan Justice target, so I'm just going to try to keep the board safe. That's ping number 4. That's ping number 5. That's ping number 6. This is ping number 7. He gets a 5/3 for free, and I can't kill it. Like, I'm serious. This is kind of dumb. I think that's 6. I have 7 health left. I'm dead to Dark Feast Bat on turn 6. I can't kill him because I don't have a bounce card. If I had a bounce card, I could kill him with Roach. Not next turn, but soon. So I have to take this line just to try to get him down as low as possible. And I can't even kill him because he has a fucking card that, like, this is dumb. So even if I do draw a bounce card, I can't kill him because he plays this bitch. And next turn is Dark Feast Bat. And it's not turn 6 yet, so I can't heal with Fairy Beast. And the game is over, right? You see how I've lost. And it's in this situation that this card is absolutely butt bunkers, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? You just keel over and cry, right? So, yeah, it's a deal. It's a big deal. With that is the deck I wanted to show off today. I will be on my way. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later. I will be continuing either of my 2 ongoing projects soon.